Hey, today we're going to be talking about Burnout, which was a book recommended by Emma's colleague, someone like that. So yeah, why did we decide to pick up this book?
My manager is a very interesting figure. I would say she's a full-on, I don't want to call it a feminist, but at least a female advocate. Every time I had a one-on-one with her, we would spend at least 2/3 of the time talking about the struggle she has as female, as a parent, or as a caretaker of the family, basically. So there's this one time when we had our one-on-one, and she said, "I finished this book, and I think every female and every male who has a female in their life, which is pretty much everybody, should read this book." So I looked it up, I bought the book, I came home, and I said to Matthias, we should read this book together because I'm very curious what a man would think of the book.
And in the video, we're going to run through our overall thoughts on the book. We'll cover some specific topics that we feel were more like spicy, I guess, from the book, or that we found useful, and just give our final verdict on the book as well. So yeah, let's start from the beginning then. Thoughts on the book in general?
I don't know, I didn't have too much of an expectation coming to the book, because I thought, oh, it's going to be a bunch of cliches, right? We've heard it before when we're getting paid less and male and blah, blah, blah. But I did feel as a female, the book speaks to me a lot, and I resonate with a lot of things the book says a lot. Things like, I never feel I'm good enough. I've always felt, oh, I need to be better. I need to take care of people more. Even when I'm at work, I tend to take on more administrative stuff as a female. And I used to think it's a me problem, not a female problem. So when I read the book, I definitely thought, oh, this is interesting. I guess it has something to do with me being a female. And yeah, that's me thinking that as a non-wife and non-mom. So I can't even imagine how moms and wives out there feels about it. But I'm curious about your thoughts too.
Yeah, I think it was very eye-opening, the book, though it was very difficult in the beginning to get into the book because, like you said, you resonated with the book a lot because you're a woman, but I feel like I resonated with the book a lot too. I have a quote as well here. It's persisting is with what women do each and every day. Often we persist because we literally have no choice. We have children to feed, world to change. We can't just stop because it's hard. And I feel often the same way. It's like, well, I just have to keep going because I'm not good enough. Yeah, I can't just stop.
Yeah.
So often when it brought out very specifically that it's like, oh, it's like a women-specific thing, I found it conflicting for me because I was like, well, I feel very much attached to that, but I think after 10-20 pages I started to realize that, if I was to make a book for men, for example, I would probably do also this kind of wording as well as, we as men, we have to take on this challenge in the world and whatever. So I think, yeah, once I overcame that, then actually the book became very interesting. And yeah, it opened up a few thoughts for me where I hadn't explored before, and a couple of things about the stress and stuff we will talk about in a second.
I remember the first few pages we went into it. I could sense your hesitation and reservation about the book. Matthias would go, you would make these sounds next to me, like, and I went, what is it? And he would go, is this a book about the woman? I feel resonating with the book a lot. I do this too. I don't feel I'm good enough. I'm persisting in what I do. I don't know. But yeah, I do agree that the book gets better towards the end of it.
Yeah, I also made a lot of notes, and I feel like first half of the book, I was like trying to argue with the book. Second half of the book, I was like, oh yeah, I like that. Oh, this and oh yes, I agree with that.
Okay, we'll talk about those moments.
Moments. Yeah. I think the first thing that the book talks about then is stress versus stressors.
Sure, I think it's an interesting lens into how you deal with stress, because I've never split stress with stressor. If I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling stressed, right? The best I could do was to, go for a workout or sleep it off or, eat it off. What the book was saying was you have essentially a factor in your life that could be the stressor, which causes the stress. So then you need to almost complete a cycle to deal with that stress. What's a good example of a stressor?
Oh, loud neighbors are the stressor. So when you hear them being loud all the time, then it creates stress for you.
Yeah.
But in the moment, to maybe overcome that stress, you might just hit the gym, I guess. That can kind of close the cycle.
Yeah.
But really, you close the cycle of stress in that moment. You haven't really addressed the stressor.
Right.
So now you have to go upstairs and talk to the neighbor and be like, hey, after 10 p.m. I would like to sleep. And then maybe the neighbor is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Right. But I think the problem with stress is that if you also don't complete the stress cycle, you keep carrying it with you all the time. I think for me more specifically is like I have a lot of ideas and tasks in my head all the time, which are kind of the stressors, but they cause a lot of stress in me, where I do get really good relief if I balance out my sleep and I go to gym. Like I feel it becomes easier to address the stressor, because if you know, some tasks might be as minimal as it takes me like 5 minutes to complete. Even if it's such a simple task, it kind of loops in your head. And it will start compounding, and it's just like constant stress.
Yeah, that's a good example actually. I think I tend to do the same before I read the book. Say I have a bunch of stuff on my to-do list and I feel stressed. What you've been told is, oh, when you feel stressed, right, take a break from work, go take a walk, go, play guitar for 5 minutes, go hit the gym, and you'll feel better. Maybe, right? I do feel slightly better, I would say, after gym, but I think the better comes from me completing a task on my to-do list, which is the gym. But I come back home, I still feel stressed because I have a bunch of stuff I haven't completed. So the cycle is me dealing with the stress, which is by going to the gym, but also dealing with the stressor, which is to actually complete the task on my list. That's me completing a cycle in my sense.
Like if I do all of my things, I feel so relaxed.
Yeah.
If I'm just sitting on a couch and not doing anything, I'm stressed. I think what it helped me was to just be more mindful of and noticing these different cases and scenarios, where it's like, if I'm feeling some level of stress, I can notice that, oh, this is probably because I actually haven't done this thing, which was actually a very important thing for me. So I can just like put it in the front and focus on it. Or on the other hand too, I think it helped me figure out that if I want to perform really well, I have to also make sure that I am getting enough sleep, that I am exercising to close those stress cycles too. Because if I don't close the stress cycles, I won't address the stressors. More stressors keep coming, more stress, more stressors, more stress, and then I go crazy. Then I get grumpy, and then you get angry at me that I'm grumpy.
Yeah. Complete the cycle. Do you want to talk about the decision grid?
Yeah, the decision grid, I guess, talks about which direction to go in your life with certain things. Like, should you the examples could be like work or relationship, diet or whatever. It's like, do you want to remain in the same place? Do I keep working at the same company, or do I switch jobs?
Yeah.
Or same in the relationships. I think we were talking about this before, that I think I have a slight struggle with having everything else and relationships in the same place, because I think
if you want to explain your reasoning a bit, I can add on to it and explain why you would look at relationship differently.
Yeah, I think when I was going through it, my thought was like, it's a good place for work, because like you can measure work very well. It's like, well, I'm earning this much, or like this is causing this much stress or whatever. So what are the benefits of leaving? What are the benefits of staying? And then making a decision based on that. I feel like with relationships it's a bit like, of course, if the relationship is abusive, you have to leave. I just feel like if someone comes to the point in the relationship where they have to go through this decision grid, they're already at a point where it's never going to work out, basically. It's just basically you do this task as a justification to make yourself feel better about breaking it off. Yeah, so I feel like if you're in a relationship, there should be higher standards, not that, oh, I feel a bit bad today and now I'm going to figure out if I'm going to stay the same or find something else. Yeah.
That's fair. I think it's
Explain my thoughts.
Going back to the decision grid a little, I think it's a helpful tool. I don't think it's anything groundbreaking, right? I think for anybody who's thinking of having a change in your life, whether it's leaving a job or leaving a partner, we already do some sort of pro and con analysis in our head already. I think this is just a helpful tool for you to write things down or think about things you probably haven't thought of before. Now, going back to the relationship comment, I think this tool is not working for Matthias. I think it could be helpful for people out there. So the way I explained, or the way I interpreted Matthias' thought on relationship is, he has a very idealistic idea of relationship, right? It's sacred, you gotta put yourself in there, you gotta commit to it. If you have a problem, it's for the two of you to work it out. So it's not a simple pros and cons list, right? For example, if I rating the two of us right now, well, we're doing great, so I don't really have a lot to put on the con list. But let's say we're in a bad place. We're having argument every day. We're not agreeing on a lot of things we're doing. Then on the con list, we'll have a lot of stuff. But what Matthias coming from is, if it's you, right? If it's a person I'm committed to, then it's our role, it's our job to work through all those cons or those problems and sort of fix our relationship. But for some people out there, I think marriage in a way is a partnership. It's a contract. It's a legal contract for you to stay together, right? Fight and work for your life together. So it doesn't have to be, oh my God, I love you to death, and for that reason, I'm gonna stay with you together. A lot of times it makes sense for us to be together. It makes financial and life sense. In that way, if you put your relationship on this decision grid, when things stopped working out, I think it's still a good tool for you to consider if you want to still stay in this relationship.
Yeah, I think, well, there are quite a lot of similarities. I feel like my thoughts and what you just explained, but I think the issue that I have with this is, like you said, like it's like a legal contract. It's not about, I feel like the way you explained it is a bit like, yeah, again, like ones and zeros. It's like, well, it's like going into the relationship or a marriage with the idea that what are our terms of divorce, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
And it's not wrong, right?
That's true, yeah. I guess so.
It's just different ways, different views of relationship. I don't think one is better than the other. Yeah.
You did think one was better than the other than we last time talked.
Well, I think my personal view is obviously the marriage with love is better than the ones with pure contractual terms. But I think love doesn't happen every day. I think I got lucky. But for those who don't feel they're like deeply in love, and love takes so many different forms too, right? It doesn't have to be, oh my God, passionate and romantic love. Sometimes it's just comfortable being with someone, and I think that's totally fine too.
Yeah, I guess I'm just hopeful that people treat each other well in relationships and get to that problems before it goes into 20 problems. Yeah, but I guess people also just sometimes find that, oh, actually I've been together with a person that I'm not compatible with, and
that was that was totally unrelated to female versus male.
Oh yeah, the book suggested that each day, at least for a week, every day you write 3 things that you're grateful about, that you also with a partner you do like a weekly chat. You mentioned that you've done this grateful writing thing, but
I had an old manager who was also a female and who has been very helpful in my career path. She once recommended, I'm sure some of you have heard of it before, 15-minute journal, or I think it's also called gratitude journal. So it's a book, and obviously on each page is one day, and you're supposed to come back home before you go to bed, write down 3 things you are grateful for the day. I think I did it for 3 days, 5 days in a row, but I was honestly running out of things to say, because I think part of it is because I've never had a habit of journaling. So there are times where good things have happened during the day or throughout the day. I just don't make a mental note of it. So by the time I get back home at night, I went, it's just a regular day at work. There's nothing really special. But this past holiday, we had a team lunch, a holiday lunch together. One exercise the team does every year during the time is rose, thorn, and bud exercise. So we did that at the lunch, and we did rose, bud, thorn. And hearing about all the roses my team member mentioned made me realize, oh, there are actually a lot of things I can be grateful for throughout the day. So I think I'll probably try this again.
Yeah, I've never done it, but when you were explaining this, I thought the same thing, that it's like, if I was there asking you why, or poking you, would you be able to come up with some thoughts? Which I think,
likely.
If you're forced to come up with 3, then you can probably come up with 3. Even if it's as simple as like, oh, I had hot running water and could take a hot shower.
Exactly.
Thank God.
Yeah. It's small things like, oh, I checked the weather today and I remember to bring an umbrella because it's raining. I wouldn't have thought of it if it weren't for the journal. Yeah, it could be our next video. We'll report back how that goes.
Yeah, and the weekly chats, we are doing Bi-weekly chats. I think right now we're just communicating a lot, so weekly seems a bit too excessive because we talk so much that eventually when this 2 weeks comes around, it's like nothing to talk about. But I still feel like it's a good moment, even if nothing else, just say nice things.
Yeah, and I think things do come out in those chats.
Yeah.
Because when Matthias first brought it up, I thought, oh, that sounds so therapeutic. Like, are you using your therapy tactics on me? And it sounds a little cringed.
Because this was before the book as well.
Yeah, it was before the book too. But when we actually did it, things actually came out. Because I thought I had been pretty open person. I like to think I share thoughts when I think of them. But I didn't realize I was actually burying some thoughts underneath me. And it's not until Matthias kept asking why in those reserved time slot when I started actually sharing some of the deep thoughts. So
the trick there also is that it's not also just, I know I keep telling everybody just ask why, but I think part of it is really trying to understand the overall thought process, because I think it's very easy to ask why and get an answer to it. But I think if you keep asking why, eventually you'll have two whys that get like conflicting answers. And then it's like, I think we went through this too. It's like, well, you said this thing here, but then you said this other thing here. So like, which one is it then? Or like, where is the balance then? Yeah, so you can't take like a simple why for an answer of that.
Going back to the beginning where I said I constantly feel I'm not good enough, and I constantly have this voice in my head that says, if he can do this, why can't you? If B can do that, why can't you? But I think I'm constantly comparing myself to the best of everybody, and I'm trying to be the best of everyone I know combined, which is not possible and not healthy and not realistic. Right? I have my strength and shortcomings, and they have too. I can't compare my shortcoming to other people's strength. But this Madwoman in my head would constantly tell me to look at other people's strength and compare it to my shortcoming and say, why can't you be better? So I think the exercise is to personifying this Madwoman in your head and try to be nice to that woman and to yourself as if you're speaking to a friend. Because I share this with you too. Every time I told my friend, like, oh, I think I need to do better. I don't think I'm good enough. They would come back to me and say, are you insane? You're doing like 8 different things already. You're like way above average. Why are you being so hard about yourself? And I would say the same back to my friends if they would tell me, right, I'm not good enough. So it's a matter of treating the Madwoman in your head as your friend, and whenever she has this crazy thoughts coming up and trying to, brainwash you into believing you're not good enough, keep telling her that's not true and keep being kind and nice to her as you were with a friend.
I think the only difference I have there really is I don't compare myself often with like other people. That happens rarely, but I do have really high expectations for myself. Wherever I'm not like at 110% perfection, then alarms go off in my head and the Madwoman starts screaming. But there is a funny balance where like there's this guy on YouTube, for example, David Goggins, just like keeps running and telling people, hey, you're a effing loser, go run, stop being a slouch. And I feel like sometimes that Madwoman piece can be very motivating. Sometimes I feel like you need that punch in the gut where it's like, hey, for 2 months you've been telling yourself that you've gone to the gym, just get up and go. I think that can be sometimes very motivating. On the other hand, I think as there are briefs of that motivational momentum in there, it also can create a lot of that stress then too. So then the Madwoman can become the stressor, create the stress, and which I noticed with that project that I was working on recently too. It's like it can kind of like paralyze you basically.
Okay.
It's like you want to take action, but you're paralyzed. And then once you don't hit the expectation, then the Madwoman is like, what's wrong with you? You haven't hit the expectation, and then it makes it even more difficult to now go back because everything compounds.
Well, here's an exercise you could do. Describe your Madwoman and either draw it out or ask ChatGPT to help draw it out for you, and treat your Madwoman as your friend and talk to her.
Yeah, leave it in the comments.
Yeah.
Who's your Madwoman? What do they look like?
Wonder Woman.
Yeah. If you're a guy, you can't say my wife.
Or girlfriend.
The game
game
is rigged.
There's a chapter in the book that says the game is rigged. And I think the idea was a lot of times when you're having problem, when you're having trouble in your life, it feels it's you fighting or against someone else. But a lot of times that someone else is not the problem. The game, the society as a whole is the enemy. You're having trouble with another human being because the game you're playing, the society you're in, is just rigged. It's just broken. The rule doesn't make sense. So if the rule of the game doesn't make sense, how can you be a fair player in that game? This particularly spoke to me because I'm thinking of switching job. Will my boss see this? I'm thinking casually exploring other opportunities.
No, you're just casually doing the
decision grid.
The decision grid exercise.
I'm looking into, or I'm, getting myself prepared for the next opportunity, which I don't know, there's nothing wrong with that. Anyhow, I'm a product manager and I've been trying to prep for the interviews. And I've been feeling so frustrated because if any of you are product managers, especially in the big tech companies, you would know how the interviews are structured. And I think people out there right now are putting insanely unnecessary threshold and struggles for people to get into the field. When I was prepping for the interview, a lot of times I would feel bad and stupid about myself in thinking, if so many other people can do it, why can't I? So going back to the same thing we've been talking all the time, comparing myself into other people out there, be like, everyone else who's applying for product manager roles in a tech company is my competitor, is my enemy. But I genuinely think the way we're playing the game is rigged. Not saying I'm on a mission to change the game. I don't think I'm in no position into doing that. But just knowing it's not entirely my fault. It's not because I'm not smart or diligent enough. It's because the game is rigged. Helped push me forward a little. Yeah, I think just knowing it's not your fault, but you still gotta play the game somehow.
Would you also agree that it helps you look at the problem, I guess, also outside of the box a bit? Because now when you describe this to me, where it's like, well, if the game is you have to apply to the job through LinkedIn and then you have to do this interview and that interview, immediately my thought was like, I'm not gonna play this game. I'm gonna send handwritten letters to everybody that's in the C-suite and then Ferrero Rochers or something like that to them. I'm gonna play my game, basically. I'm gonna take over now. Not sure how successful that might be, but I feel like it helps you zoom out maybe from the standard. It's like, I'm not gonna deal with this.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm gonna be doing a serious vlog of me hand-delivering resumes and cover letters to all the CEOs in Toronto. We'll see how that goes.
Do you think it was harder for you to get to where you are today because you are a female? Like get promoted in the manager position?
I think so. I think I, for many years, tried to not let myself think that way. I wanted to make myself believe if I work hard enough, I'm no different than anyone else. And the system or the game or the bias can't break me, which I still believe, but I've also come to realize as a female in the workplace, there are more struggles to overcome compared to a male. For example, I think number one is a mindset. There was this International Women's Day event I went to. I forgot what the speaker was, but she had basically said, if there was a job posting, right? As a female, I would think I have to be at least 150% capable of what the job is describing for me to apply for the role. Versus as a male, if you're 60, 70% aligned with the job description, they would apply. And in their head, the different thought was, as a female, I would think, can I even get it? If I get it, right, I will be leading people who's senior than me. They would have more tenure at the company, they would know more in the industry or in the role. Who am I to lead those people? In the male's head, they will think, sounds like I can do it. if I get the job, I'll do it. So I think one of it is a mindset, and I'm not saying this is men's fault. I think it's something us as a female need to work on. We need to think more like a man sometimes. And that's something I'm constantly working on too. But I would say, especially in where I am, still fairly early in my career, I'm still constantly fighting that mind monster I have. Trying to convince myself and telling myself you can do this. If other people believe in you, there's no reason why you don't believe in yourself. So that's one. Second, I think I mentioned was because of how the company or the organization is structured right now, which is very male dominated. Taking my company as an example, in the C-suite, we have, I probably should fact check this, at least 80-90% of C-suite executives are male, right? The only female, I probably shouldn't say this, got fired because of sex scandal. We'll cut this part out. But I think the struggle, even if you get all the way up to the executive level, it's such a boys' club. If you think about you and your friends, right? If you're recommending a candidate to an opening in your team, subconsciously you would play favor to someone you know or someone you're close with. Right? I think one point you mentioned was, let's say those male executives, they all go golfing during the weekend. They go play football, watch football, drink beer at the same time. Number one, they get closer to each other when doing that. Number two, they might share ideas about work during that time. And I don't know, the CEO might hear that and they thought, oh, you're actually really smart. I've never thought of that before. Our female executive could have the same idea or same thought, but she didn't have the time or the chance to express it. So part of it is, as female executive, is it their job to fight or squeeze themselves into a boys' club? If so, why? Why do we have to align our interests and our lifestyle to men? And the second part to it is, while men are out there golfing, watching football and drinking beer, female are usually the one staying home and taking care of the kids. So those activities also take the time out of their daily schedule where they could have used to build up their career. So I think consciously and subconsciously, there are just multiple glass ceilings and struggles or hurdles for us to jump through to get to where men could be at.
I think we had long conversations about this. Yeah, and I could resonate with the golfing example. I often hang out with the work colleagues too, and I can see how often when we hang out, we talk about work.
Yeah.
I remember also finding that other comment about wives having to stay home, take care of the kids. I know that's it's just hard for me to comprehend that, because I feel like that's just men not doing great enough, but I know that's the case. So it's guys, you need to step up your game.
Thank you. And I think society as a whole is getting better, but it's still the case most of the time.
And it's a tricky problem to solve too, because now it's you can't go in also and say, okay, starting tomorrow, we're gonna fire half of our men because they're men, and we're just gonna replace them with women because they're women. How do you,
The one thing women can do to help with that, to help save yourself, is to give men more credit in taking care of the babies or the kids.
Positive reinforcement.
Yes, I think a lot of times, and I think I'm to blame here too, in some cases. Let's say cooking or cleaning the kitchen. Sometimes I just go and do it, like cooking, right? Because I know I'll be faster in cooking a meal. I'll be faster in cleaning the kitchen. And sometimes I feel bad if you were so nice and you offer to cook, but then I'll be sitting outside, be like, oh, he's using so many pots. I could have done this with one. So maybe it's easier just for me to do it. But without practice, you can't get better, right? So it's the same thing with kids. I think sometimes female just thought, or the moms just thought, oh, I'll be better with kids. If I leave my kids with their dads, they'll just be, I don't know, eating ice cream all day. Let it go. Let male do it. Your kids is not gonna die. Most of the cases.
I have a good feedback here too, because I think part of my cooking, why it takes also so long, is because I feel like you cook more often. I feel like me cooking often is like a special occasion. Well, it's not, yeah, I guess kind of it feels like for me that I need to put extra effort into. So instead of just making something quick and simple, I make something that's like 4 different dishes with this magical thing, and this 2 of them are something that I've never done before, and I'm like Googling at the same time while I'm cooking it. That's why it takes so long time.
Which I appreciate. I will say the ones I make, it's more for survival. It's like, oh, we need to eat, so let's just make something quick. Where when Matthias cook, he puts a lot more thought and effort into it. If I were to make the same thing, I'll probably take the same amount of time.
Except maybe the Googling time, because you have the recipes in your head.
Probably not. No, this is off topic. One of the concepts I've been struggling to take a stand on, when we say gender equality, what equality are we talking about? Are we saying men and female are the same, whereas as human beings, there's no differentiation between the 2 gender, and as a result, we should pretty much be doing the same thing? I think there were a period of time where I thought that. I thought, oh, yeah, there's nothing a man can do that a female can't do. So maybe we are the same. So I think what this chapter helped me with making a peace with that equality term is female and male, we do have different biologies. We do have different genes, and I was gonna say body parts, but it sounded wrong. It's true. It sounded a bit wrong. But genetically, we are different.
Yeah, I think when we had this conversation about this, the interesting part was like how much of our issues and development and how we think and how we decide to go one way or another in careers, like where's the balance between how much is it like biology versus also like environmental, like
social impact.
It's like, yeah, it's like how much of the impact is like how you raise the kid, for example, like what toys you let it or tell it to play with versus how much of this is actually because of the biological tendencies.
Yeah. So we're saying, oh, if we were to give a boy Barbie dolls from the very start, are we saying the boy will just grow up and act and respond to anything like a female? Is it like that? Is that how human body are structured? But I think the answer is no, right? Our biologies are different.
Yeah, that's why it's not like 100% environmental. It's somehow both.
Yeah.
I think it's just people miss that part.
I think so. I think male and female should be playing different parts in the society and in our lives. We just gotta find the spot that fit us, if that makes sense. Like you can't have one personality in society, right? So you also can't have one type of leadership in your organization. So when you look at your executive level, your executive team, you have 9 males and 1 female, but there are certain things that a female can bring to the table that men cannot. So yes, finding a balance or equal rights between male and female, but when both parties are at the table, the expectation shouldn't be that they're playing the exact same role, like female and male behave the same, but you should be playing your own strength differently.
I think there's also no way sometimes like really to know what the other side of those experiences do. It's like I guess the very extreme example is like having a kid and pushing them out. I guess like I can learn and study it and know everything about that experience, but I will never know the experience.
I think a good example would be if I think back to the workplace thing, female leaders. Sometimes they're being looked up to or thought highly of because they display masculine personalities. Things like being assertive, looking tough, right? Spending a lot of time at work and nothing on the family, either divorced or never married, that kind of stuff. These masculine characteristics or personalities on a female make that female executive a good candidate for a leadership level, I guess. But all I'm saying is that shouldn't be the case, right? A female has our own traits of strength, and we should be upplaying those traits and be a different leader than males.
Yeah, I think also what people need to keep in mind that there are always exceptions as well. think people often also get stuck in different extremes, and there's like, well, but there is this person that's this way, and then like, well, yes, the people are also different. What do you want?
Yeah. So if you're resonating with more of the female traits we're talking about, and you're a male, you're totally fine. I think.
Yeah, I read the book, and the first thing I said to her, I was like, I'm a female. Cool. So to wrap then up, actually you probably don't know, but I actually secretly already recommended the book to someone.
Oh.
Yeah, Paula, when we had it, yeah,
okay,
because yeah, she was also talking a little bit about like stress, and I just gave her the book, and I was like, you should read it, especially if it's just about the part about the stress and stressors, and well, she reads 60 books a year anyway, at least. So what's another book for her? Yeah. But yeah, final verdict. Would you recommend it? Do you think it was a good experience? And yeah, should every female guy read it?
Yes, I would recommend the book. I do think the quantity or the quality of the idea the book conveys, it could have done it in a shorter book. And I think the second half of the book is a much easier and better read than the first half. But I do think some of the ideas it conveys in there, including the scientific proof they used as a backup, is good to know. I've also recommended the book to another friend of mine, but I think, yeah, it's a good book to read.
Okay, that's it. Bye-bye.
Bye.